Okay, this actually works properly now. Excellent. Let me show you how I got here. Hello everybody, hope you are well. Well, we're sitting in my 1989 Jaguar XJS, and today we are looking at replacing this single DIN Android head unit with a replacement because of all the issues we've had with this one. So this is an ESSGOO branded, I think it's called, ESSGOO, ESSGOO brand single DIN Android that I got from eBay. It was really cheap. I think it was something like £40, and I've had no end of issues with it. Primarily it's not connecting to wireless Android Auto when it turns on. It has a real habit of kind of being a bit flaky about connecting, and sometimes takes 10 or so minutes to find the phone. And also on longer journeys, I think what's happening is it's overheating, and it essentially freezes up, so you can't actually adjust the volume control or any sort of interface to it. It's still sort of running, if you've got Google Maps running, it's still there, and you're kind of moving through the scenery, but yeah, it stops responding to inputs. So yeah, incredibly frustrating. It kind of goes with the territory with these cheap units, I guess. But yeah, so today we're going to be replacing this one, which is Android based, with a alternative, not so cheap, but still quite cheap, Linux-based unit. My thoughts are that these Android units, obviously you can configure them to the nth degree and add all sorts of apps on them. The Linux ones are much more locked down. They're essentially just a portal to operating Android Auto, so you can't load any kind of apps on them or anything, and consequently their specs are quite a lot lower. But I'm hoping, because there's kind of no customization involved, that they're going to be a fair bit more reliable in just coming on when the car comes on and then displaying Android Auto. So that's what we're doing today. I just love this form factor. It's the reason I'm persevering with it. This kind of single DIN widescreen Android or Android Auto format. I think it suits older cars like this. I know some people would disagree. The screens are a good enough size to get all the info you want. So that's the reason I'm kind of persevering with it and not going for, say, just a normal single DIN radio from an alternative manufacturer. I do have just over here the original radio from the car, the Jaguar tape deck from in period. I think this still does work. I might have to test it out really. So the wiring doesn't look very good anymore, but yeah, this won't be going back in. I did convert the wiring back there to a standard ISO connector, so I'm hoping this will be fairly straightforward. We're going to remove this one, back the car into the garage, and see if we can fit the new one. So here's hoping it's nice and straightforward. Just one last hurrah. Let's try loading natively on the unit Google Maps. Let's see if this works. No, search doesn't respond, so you can see how slow this is. Oh dear. Can we exit? There we go. About the Play Store, does that work? Yeah, this unit's just really slow. Clearly its specs aren't up to the job, so I'm looking forward to removing it, and let's see if the Linux-based replacement, unbranded, will be any improvement. The replacement I have is Eonon branded, I think is how you pronounce it. It's E-O-N-O-N. Eonon? I'm not entirely sure. But it's another single DIN unit, just like this one. It essentially looks the same, with the volume knob on the left there, and kind of a full width single DIN screen. I think it was £70 or something from eBay, so a fair bit more expensive than this one, but it's all relative. They're still really cheap units, and I do have expectations accordingly, but I'm just hoping it's going to be a little bit better than this one. Here's some good examples of the frustrating quality levels you get with these cheap head units. You can see here the cellophane, which was on the metal here. It was assembled with the cellophane still on, so it's kind of all wedged in the gaps, and it's all kind of wedged under here. See that there? This bit of cellophane is behind these screws. But yeah, most frustratingly, on the front screen here, it's got a protective cover. Hope you can see just here. You know, a protective cover that you peel off the screen, but you can't peel it off because the volume knob is stuck over it and it's glued on. So I'm going to have to cut through the film kind of in that gap just there to get it off. It's really frustrating. I don't know why they do things like that. I mean, it's not that difficult, surely, to apply protective film like a mainstream manufacturer would. I don't know why they trip up over this stuff, but there we go. Just something you have to deal with. There we go. I made an incision kind of in the side there, and I think I've got it now. Yeah, there we go. So you can see there, look at how it was kind of stuck around that. So this is the least satisfying one-handed removal ever, but there we go. Another thing I've had to do on the wiring side of fitting this unit is I had to disconnect this wire here. This is pin 5, I believe, in the ISO connector. It's that blue one. With the previous radio, it went off to the power antenna, and it was only live when you selected the FM radio on the unit. But with this unit, this Linux-based one rather than Android, it's live all the time. So you have the electric antenna up all the time. This is the white and pink wire. I think this wire actually goes directly to the antenna in the back of the car. I have tested that before, but yeah, I've got to disconnect that, and I'm not going to have an FM antenna, but I don't use the radio, so it's no big deal. You could just put the little, you know, secondary switch somewhere to put the antenna up. You know, like that one, say, that I've got for the recirculation control. You could hide that somewhere. But yeah, the things that you have to deal with cheap radios. It kind of goes with the territory, I guess. This is the cheap single DIN Android stereo I removed from the car because it's rubbish. Sadly, this is the Linux-based unit. Rather annoyingly, it is going to look good when it's fitted. You know, it'll look the same as that one, basically. You can see it kind of springs out, so I have to put some butyl on it or something to keep it in, I think. It doesn't need anything more than that, but yeah, rather annoyingly, it has this gap along the top. I don't know if you can see that, but the side is all solid, look back to here. But on the top, it's not. It's like the bezel is thinner compared to this one, look, which is full width all the way round. And that, of course, means once it's pushed home, from this angle here, you can still see the grey of the metalwork just in there. So I'm going to have to find a plastic black spacer to put along the top there. It's a bit annoying, isn't it? I don't know why they've designed it like that, because these side bits mean it can only ever go in that far. Seems odd. Unless you're supposed to cut those. I don't think you are. Guess that's an option, but yeah, there we go. I'll just remove the radio again from the car, and yeah, I think I am going to cut those side tangs off. These bits here, I think I'm going to cut them to kind of that distance so they match up with the bezel on the back there, well, the bezel on the top and the bottom. I can't see any reason why I couldn't do that. It's just a bit of plastic. Look, it's not supporting anything, so yeah, I'll drum along there, protect these holes for dust ingress, and I think that'll look quite good in the car then. It will be a fair bit more inset into the dashboard compared with how this one was, so I think that'll look quite nice. It'll obviously void my warranty, but to be honest, they're not going to notice, are they, if it does go wrong and I have to apply for a refund via PayPal and eBay. I'll just make sure I do a neat job. I decided this would be the easier way to look to amend it. I've got it clamped in the vise here, just very, very gently, because this frame isn't made of really anything at all. and I've just scored, don't know if you can see that, but I've scored a line along there with a utility knife. So it's quite soft plastic, so I think I'm just going to score it a bunch of times and hopefully I can break this away cleanly. And that should look really good. You wouldn't be able to see this back face, you know, when it's in the car anyway, but it'd be a nice clean edge on the bit you can see. Well, here it is fitted after it's been trimmed. Sort of see the depth there is really good. It's quite shallow mounting. I'm not entirely happy with the fitment because this piece of plastic above where it says air, see that little D-shaped bit just in there? I'll just point it out. It's that bit I'm touching there. It's kind of, the radio's kind of pushed it down and into this switch. I mean, it still works fine, and I guess you can't see it, but you can see this is kind of touching that bit above. So maybe I'll do a few more tweaks, but yeah, in terms of a fit, I think that's turned out rather nice. Yeah, it's nice that it's that you can amend it to be close fitting like that. So yeah, very good. Let's just hope it doesn't crash when it gets hot, eh? So here's the unit fitted and on. Seems to be fairly responsive, which is good. I've just got it set on Android Auto, so it just has power amp for music and Google Maps here, but yeah, that's not too bad, is it? In terms of responsiveness, it's definitely better than the Android unit was. So like I said, this is running on Linux, so you can't customize it to the same extent you can the Android type, but in theory it means it should be a hell of a lot more stable. So let's see. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. For, what was it, £70 sterling this cost? I think that's a nice fit. Let's check this. Yeah, I can hear the motors in the air conditioning unit moving when I move that, so that's still working. Let's just check how dim it gets when I pop the lights on. Oh yeah, that's really good. So if you consider that's full brightness, and if I just put the side lights on, the switch is just here. Yeah, so it dims quite a lot actually, and it also defaults to night mode on Google Maps and navigation. I don't think the Android unit did that. I'm just going to turn the light off on my camera for a second so you can kind of see this a bit better. So I'm just illuminated by the regular lights in here. So yeah, that's, I guess, day mode. I think it's almost at max brightness. And then that's night mode. Let's just turn the ignition on and get the display up. There you go, because you can see it in context of the factory trip computer there. So this is night mode. That's day mode. That's night mode. Yeah, that's really good. That's a really nice brightness. The main problem with these units is usually they don't go dim enough when you have the lights on. They're too bright at night. But actually, yeah, that's really good. I could really increase that slightly. I'll put it there. Maybe that's a tiny bit bright on a long journey, but okay. Let's put the light back on. So that all checks out so far. So the main things to look for when this is running is obviously slow down on here, slow down in general use, you know, switching between screens, etc. They can do that, you know, after half an hour, an hour's use, because they overheat, because they're, you know, cheaply made ultimately. Yeah, volume control's nice and responsive. That's much more than could be said for that one when it overheated. You were stuck at a certain volume for about a minute before the system caught up again with the control you were doing. So that's good. I'll do a future video if it fails in use at all. But yeah, very good. As a useful point of comparison, this is how responsive the Android Auto, the wireless Android Auto interface is in a modern car. This is a 2025 Peugeot 2008, I think it is. So this is kind of an OEM grade system, and you can see kind of how I hope you can see how responsive it is there. I'd probably say it is slightly better than the one in the Jag, the aftermarket one, although it's kind of in line with expectations, really, isn't it? I'd say for an unbranded unit, the one in the Jag's pretty good, but yeah, I think this is slightly faster, slightly more responsive. So let's see where we are. I get lots of data on the screen. So yeah, hopefully that's useful. There's of course one final thing you have to do at the end of any job. One clean microfiber towel and give it a nice clean and dusting. Okay, that's great. So that is one single DIN Linux based wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay head unit installed in a 1989 Jaguar XJS V12 Coupe, and I'm so far pleased with the results. So we'll see how it lasts over the coming months. Right, I put a custom Jaguar boot logo on it. I'll just demonstrate that now. I'm just going to turn the key on. There you go, it flashes up Jaguar, and then it just does the normal connecting thing. That was actually relatively easy to do. You get a USB stick, you put on it a logo of 960 by 360 pixels, I think it was, in a folder titled logo, I think it was. You just put it on a USB stick, put the stick in here, boot up. I'll do a demonstration, actually show you where you select it. Boot up again. So you put the USB stick in there, then you go to settings, factory set, password is 112233, and then you select it here. You just select external card at the top there. I won't touch it because I don't want to break it again. I'm not entirely sure how I managed to make it work, but yeah, I think I set external card and then it came out of here and it reset, and then the logo appeared. And now it's sort of automatically saved it on the internal memory. Let's turn it on once more. Is it going to come on? What have I done? There we go. So yeah, it saves it on the internal memory. So if anyone wants any help with that, I can send the file I've used and some instructions. So the unit's installed. Here it is. It's working well. See, it switches pretty speedily. Scrolling's pretty good on the map. So yeah, so far it seems to be really good. It's a bit of a lottery, of course, with these cheap, essentially unbranded radios. So I'll keep you posted, but it fits nicely, I think you'll agree. Let's take a look at the bezel again. So kind of close fitting it is there. So it fits nicely. It connects to Android Auto wirelessly really quickly. No slowdowns or anything similar to report as yet. So yeah, so far so good. I'll keep you updated and add a video comment in future if there are any issues, but for now, oh hell, I'm happy mainly just to have a working volume control. That's a real novelty. I still think there is a gap in the market here for a premium single DIN, you know, with good features, performance and a good screen. You know, for all my fellow classic and modern classic owners that want Android Auto, Apple CarPlay screens like this, you know, unfussy designs for single DIN slots. So yeah, what do you think? If any manufacturers from China are watching and you're making a good one, please send me one to test, and I'd be glad to do so. I think Porsche, of all people, do make one kind of designed for the 993 and earlier generation air-cooled 911s, but I think it's quite expensive and it's actually got quite a small screen. It's not kind of a full width like this. So yeah, thank you for watching. Any questions or comments, please let me know below. Cheerio. Thought I'd quickly look it up. Here is the one that Porsche make. Single DIN form factor with a small kind of 3-inch or so screen. €1,446. I think not.